Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for your kind association. Today is a very auspicious Tithi. It is the divine appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Goswami Mahārāj Prabhupada. And it is also the disappearance day of Shri Srimad Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj. This Sunday at 4:45 p.m. in the ISKCON Atlanta Temple, I have been given the service of speaking about the glories of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada. So I will be speaking about Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada on Sunday. Today we will focus on the continuation of the glories of Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj. We had 5 sessions and then there was interruption. So today being the divine disappearance day of Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj, I would like to continue with our discussion of Mahārāj's glories. But in the beginning, let us read. I'm going to be reading from 2 books. This is a book by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Mahārāj, a book called Shri Bhakti Siddhānta Vaibhav. This is the very beautiful biographical work on the life of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Goswami Mahārāj Prabhupada. His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Mahārāj is a beloved, glorious disciple of our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Charana Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Mahārāj Srila Prabhupada. And His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Mahārāj is one of our Gurujans in ISKCON also. The second book I'm going to read is by His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu. And this is the book that we were reading, When Good Fortune Arises. It is the biographical work of glorifying the life of Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj. So, in the year 1874, remember our Srila Prabhupada appeared in this world in the year 1896. So 22 years prior to that, in the year 1874, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Goswami Mahārāj Prabhupada appeared in this world in the holy dham of Shri Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri, very close to the temple of Lord Jagannath. On this Tithi, today is the Tithi when Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada made his advent in this world. After the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the year 1486 AD, there was the inauguration of Harinam Sankirtan. And it ushered in the prophesized, the predicted golden period in this dark age of Kali, the age of Harinam Sankirtan, Prem Nam Sankirtan. And this is predicted to last for approximately 500 years, approximately 10,000 years, beg your pardon. This golden period of Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, out of which 10,000 years are the golden period of Kali Yuga, after the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we are very fortunate that we have got the opportunity to take human birth on this earth planet during that 10,000 year golden period of Kali Yuga, where the Prem Nam Sankirtan movement of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be prevalent on this earth planet. 500 years have already elapsed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came along with his associates. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori Swaparshada Swiyadhama Saha Avatari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his Sri Navadvip Dham. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his dear associates, Sango Pangastra Parshadam, like Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Advaita Prabhu, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Srila Shrivas Thakur, Srila Namacharya, Haridas Thakur, and others. And most intimately, the sons of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not have any biological sons, but who are the sons of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? According to Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura in his purports to Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Thakur has written very beautiful verses where he describes that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as children. So who are the children of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? They are the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. They spread the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale, established the teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by very beautifully writing all the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the benefit of the whole world. This is called the Goswami literature. And that was a very wonderful period when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. Soon after Mahaprabhu's disappearance, there were the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who continued the transcendental work. And after that, Prabhutraya, the 3 Prabhus, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, Sri Shyamananda Pandit, and Srila Srinivas Acharya, they further preached the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu throughout Orissa and Bengal, East Bengal and West Bengal both. East Bengal is present-day Bangladesh, and West Bengal is present-day part of India. The message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread throughout this area, the Pancha Gauda area. But after the disappearance of Prabhutraya, after the disappearance of Sri Narottam Das Thakur, Sri Shyamananda Prabhu, and Srila Srinivas Acharya, there was a dark period in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and in the history of this world. Couple of generations later, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur revived the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, revived the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But that was mainly in the Vrindavan area. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan also continued that, but that was also mainly in the Vrindavan and Rajasthan area. After the disappearance of Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there again came a dark period in the history of this world, where the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, appeared to have been lost. And this dark period lasted for a very long time. At least couple of centuries, this dark period lasted. Few genuine sadhus remained on the planet, but they were limited in the holy dham, Shri Mayapur Dham, Shri Vrindavan Dham, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham. But the whole world was drowning in the ocean of material existence. The whole world was groping in the darkness of ignorance in Kali Yuga. And the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practically seemed to have gotten lost. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat was not available, which is the authorized biography of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Mahārāj. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Mahārāj was also lost. There was no preaching going on. The Nam Sankirtan that was going on was contaminated by the Apa Siddhāntas in the Apa Sampradayas. There were 13 Apa Sampradayas, false disciplic successions, which were teaching impure philosophy. The pure philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva, the path of Raganuga Bhakti, seemed to have been lost. Genuine sadhus who were following the strict principles of Vaishnavism in the Gaudiya line seemed to have been lost. At that time, the chief associate of Srila Rupa Manjari appeared in this world, the 7th Goswami. Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath H hai Gosai Jabe Braje Koi Lovas Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Koriya Prakash. These 6 Goswamis, who are the direct descendants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, revealed the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the form of worship of Radha and Krishna, exclusive devotion to Radha and Krishna in Braj Bhav. But after the 6 Goswamis' time, there was a dark period. And then the 7th Goswami appeared, Saptam Goswami. 7th Goswami appeared. His Divine Grace, Sachidananda, Shri Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Mahārāj. Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura alone did in Shridham Mayapur what the 6 Goswamis did in Shri Vrindavan Dham. Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura is Kamala Manjari, and he is the, in Golok Vrindavan, chief assistant of Shri Rupa Manjari. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura is Gaura Shakti Swarup. He is the manifestation of the potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Rupanuga Vara. He is the best amongst the followers of Sri Rupa Goswami. Because in Golok Vrindavan, Kamala Manjari, who is Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura in Gaur Leela, is an intimate, confidential maid-servant of Sri Rupa Manjari. So 7th Goswami, Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura appeared, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura created a revolution. Through his revolutionary preaching style, he created many Namahattas in Bengal. He rediscovered the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yoga Pith. Gaura Avirbhava Bhumi Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarobhama Shri Jagannathaya Te Namah. With the help of a Shiksha Guru, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj, who was very old at that time, more than 100 years old. With his help, Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Mahārāj confirmed and rediscovered the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, started building a temple there, wrote many books, but he could not publish them. He could not publish many of them. Few books Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura was able to publish. Lord Chaitanya and his precepts in the English language, for example. But that was not on a mass scale, on a very small scale. Few copies were printed by Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura. But Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura personally preached, personally wrote many books and spoke pure Krishna Katha. The Hari Katha that Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura, Swananda Sukhada Kunj, he spoke at his residence, Swananda Sukhada Kunj, which is the name of the Kunj of Shri Kamal Manjari in Golok Vrindavan. Was so pure, his Hari Katha was so pure that the Vairagya Chudamani, the crest jewel of all Vairagis, Namo Gaura Kishoraya. What is that verse? Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambha Rasam Bodhe Padam Bujayate Namah. Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Mahārāj, who was always steeped in the highest rasa of Vipralambha Bhava, and who was the crest jewel of all renunciates. He would come, he would give up his bhajan in the forest and come to the house of Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura and hear pure Krishna Katha from Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura's lotus mouth. Such was the potency of Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura's purity. Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura created a revolution, revived the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura knew that to spread and firmly establish the pure teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I will need an empowered representative of the spiritual world, a ray of Vishnu. So Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura prayed to Lord Jagannath to give him a ray of Vishnu, to give him a Hari Parshad, to give him an eternal associate from the spiritual world who could perform this great task of spreading Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pure teachings all over the world. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's earnest prayers were answered by Lord Jagannath. And in the form of Lord Jagannath's prasad, Shri Bhagavati Devi and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahāshaya were blessed with a divine son who appeared in this world in Jagannath Puri today. Today is the Tithi. And he was born with his umbilical cord wrapped around his torso like the Upavita, like the Yajna Sutra, like the Brahmin thread. It was wrapped so tightly that after Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada was born, it left a mark on his body, exactly like the Brahmin thread. There are many children who are born with umbilical cord around their neck. But this was not only around the neck, it was also on his left shoulder, across his chest, like the Brahmin thread, which is a very auspicious sign. And the physical features of this newborn child were that of a Mahapurush. He was a very divine child. And because he was born as the prasad, as the mercy of Lord Jagannath, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur named him Bimala Prasad. Bimala Devi is Shri Parvati Devi, Shri Durga Devi, who is ever present at Jagannath temple to receive the prasad of Lord Jagannath. And because it was her desire that everyone should get the Mahaprasad of Lord Jagannath, of Lord Krishna, she distributes it. So in Jagannath Puri, after Jagannath eats, Jagannath's remnants, his plate, is offered to Shri Bimala Devi. She partakes Jagannath's prasad, and only then that prasad becomes Mahaprasad, and then it is distributed to all the devotees. So Jagannath's prasad comes as Bimala Prasad. Jagannath's prasad becomes Mahaprasad after it becomes Bimala Prasad. Jagannath's mercy comes through Bimala Devi. And because the child was born as the mercy of Lord Jagannath, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahāshaya very aptly named their son, the son of Shri Bhagavati Devi and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahāshaya, as Shri Bimala Prasad. Later on, he would become Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita Das. Srila Gour Kishore Das Babaji Mahārāj gave initiation to Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada and gave him the name Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita Das. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi is Srimati Radharani, the daughter of Shri Vrishabhanu Mahārāj. Daita Das means a very dear servant of Srimati Radharani. So that was the initiation name of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada. And later on, taking inspiration from Shripad Ramanujacharya, taking inspiration from all the preceding acharyas and from his own Guru Mahārāj, who was in the Babaji Bhesh, Srila Gour Kishore Das Babaji Mahārāj, our Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita Das, Shri Bimla Prasad, took sannyas, Tridandi Vaishnava sannyas, and received the name Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhupada. And within a course of just 10 years, established. The main preaching was 10 years when Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada was really having followers, really traveling and preaching. In 10 years, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada established 64 temples, 64 Gaudiya Maths throughout the greater India area, and had thousands of disciples and preached to hundreds and thousands of people. He established the Brihad Mridanga, the printing press of the Gaudiya Math, where so many newsletters, so many books, the holy scriptures were printed and distributed. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat was printed and distributed. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit was discovered by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and this was printed and published by Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada. In this way, the preaching went on. from strength to strength. It kept on increasing. And then Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupād's foremost disciple, the most prominent disciple, who is our Param Gurudev, His Divine Grace, Shri Srimad Abhay Charana Arvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāj Prabhupada, actually made the prediction of Srila Haridas Thakur and Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, Prithivite Atyachana Garadigram Sarvatra Prachar Hoive Moranam, come true by traveling all over the world to all the 6 continents, across all the oceans, circling the globe multiple times over the course of 11 years, 14 times to be precise, establishing 108 centers all over the world. Our Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāj Prabhupada really fulfilled the mission of the Parampara, the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the mission of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada. And now it comes to the next generation after Srila Prabhupada, who are our Guru Varga, the generation of Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj and all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They further spread and established the teachings of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. Now we have more than 600 temples and centers all over the world. We have many farm communities. And now the number of ISKCON devotees today who are initiated, aspiring to be initiated, or who are regular contributors, who are well-wishers, it has reached 1 million. 1 million. So we have really grown in strength. Srila Prabhupada had 5,000 disciples and maybe another 5 to 10,000 practicing devotees, favorable devotees, aspiring disciples. But from 10 to 15,000 devotee population, now Srila Prabhupada's disciples have taken it successfully to 1 million. Now that brings us to our generation, the second generation devotees after Srila Prabhupada. So it is very important that we become serious in our Krishna consciousness. We understand what glorious inheritance we have received. And we also understand the fickle nature of this human life. Shana Bhangur. It is very precious, but it is Shana Bhangur. It can go anytime. And we see practically so many devotees leaving their bodies or becoming very sick. So it is a wake-up call for all of us that we take this very seriously. We do not know how much time we have in this body, and we do not know what life we will get in the next birth. Therefore, let us make the most of this life. Now we have received the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Now we have received the mercy of the Parampara. Let us take it very seriously and make our life successful and make the life of others also successful. I would like to read just a few paragraphs from this book, Shri Bhakti Siddhānta Vaibhav, by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Mahārāj. I'm reading from the chapter entitled Early Life, page number 7, Childhood and Youth of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada. Very inspiring. Bimala Prasad was 5 months old at the time of Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra. So today, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada appeared in this world. And we know the Rath Yatra comes in June. So Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada was approximately 5 months old when Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra took place in Jagannath Puri. It is an annual festival attracting millions of pilgrims. His father's house was situated along the parade route on Grand Road. The Grand Road is the main road on which Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra happens. Although the procession usually finishes in a few hours, this time Lord Jagannath's cart stopped for 3 days. Think about this. Does it ever happen like that? That Jagannath's Rath is stopped in one place for 3 long days? But this was the potency of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada, such a special devotee. Lord Jagannath's Rath stopped for 3 days outside the home of his dear devotee, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Lord Jagannath allows himself to be carried on the Rath and is pulled by his devotees, as if dependent on them. But by his wish, the cart sometimes malfunctions or becomes immovable. We know this. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this pastime is described. Jagannath has a mind of his own. Jagannath's Rath follows the Manorath of Lord Jagannath. If Jagannath wants to move, the Rath moves. Jagannath wants to stop, the Rath stops. We see in Chaitanya Charitamrita there is description. Jagannath's Rath just would not move during Rath Yatra. Mahārāj Prataparudra did not know what to do. He employed strong pahlwans, strong people to pull the Rath, but they could not move the Rath even 1 millimeter. Then strong elephants were brought, and with ropes they were tied to the Rath, and they tried to pull the Rath of Lord Jagannath. It did not move. Finally, everyone looked at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went behind the Rath of Lord Jagannath and gently with his beautiful golden forehead, he touched the back of the Rath, and Jagannath's Rath started moving just by the touch of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. During that period, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur arranged for a continuous Sankirtan festival for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. This is very important. We are followers of the Bhagavad Dharma, Bhagavad Marg. And what is the Bhagavad Marg? It is a process of hearing and chanting. Chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra softly in Japa and loudly in Sankirtan is the most important process for all of us. Bhajaner Madhya Shreshta Navavida Bhakti Krishna Prem Krishna Dite Dhare Mahashakti Tara Madhya Sarva Shreshta Nama Sankirtan Nirapradhe Nama Lele Pape Premadhan. There are 9 processes of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. But the most powerful of these 9 processes is Nam Sankirtan. Tara Madhya Sarva Shresh Nam Sankirtan. This we have to remember. Whether we have deities at home, deities in the temple, they are most pleased when we sing loudly the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Naham Trishtami Vaikunthe Yogi Nam Hridayeshuva Mad Bhakta Yatra Gayanti Tatra Trishtami Narada. Hari Sada Vaset Tatra Yatra Bhagavata Janaha Gayanti Bhakti Bhavena Harer Nam Eva Kevalam. Gayanti Bhakti Bhavena Harer Nam Eva Kevalam. When devotees come in with Bhakti Bhav, with devotional mood, they are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, they are chanting Harinam in Sankirtan, Hari Sada Vaset Tatra. Lord Hari takes greatest pleasure in being present in such a place. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is teaching us. Jagannath's Rath stopped in front of his house. Immediately, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur organized 3 days continuous Harinam Sankirtan for the pleasure of Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, Sudarshanji. Taking advantage of the auspicious opportunity, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur directed his wife, Sri Bhagavati Devi, to bring her baby to the cart. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was married at a very young age. He was a teenager and his wife was only 5 years old, first wife. And when his wife was a teenager, she delivered their first child. But approximately 10 months to 1 year after the delivery of the first child, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahashay's first wife left her body. Then Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur married a second time, and that was Shri Bhagavati Devi, from whom he had a remainder of his children. So I will just read it. In the year 1850, at the age of 11, so not even a teenager, he was 11, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was married to 5-year-old Sayamani. The first wife of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Shri Sayamani. She was 5 years old when she married the Thakur. And our Thakur Mahashay was 11 years old when he first got married to Shri Sayamani. In 1960, 10 years after marriage, which means when she was 15 years old, she bore a son, Annada Prasad. But 10 months later, she died. Soon thereafter, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur married Shri Bhagavati Devi, whose first son expired also in 1868, when just 1 month old. Srimati Bhagavati Devi subsequently delivered 8 sons: Radhika Prasad, Kamala Prasad, Vimala Prasad, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada ki jai, Varada Prasad, Viraja Prasad, Lalita Prasad, and Shailaja Prasad, and also gave birth to 5 daughters. So 8 sons and 5 daughters, 13 children. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 13 children. Just from Bhagavati Devi. And he had 1 child from his first wife, Sayamani Devi. 5 daughters. Look at their names: Saudamini, Kadambini, Krishna Vinodini, Shama Sarojini, and Hari Pramodini. Such beautiful names. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's children. So, taking advantage of the auspicious opportunity, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur directed his wife, Srila Bhagavati Devi, to bring her baby to the Rath of Lord Jagannath, to the cart. Upon being placed at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, the infant reached out his tiny arms to touch the feet of the deity. His tiny arms, our Bimala Prasad, who was just 5 months old, reached out to touch the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. Sometimes some foolish people say that Lord Jagannath does not have feet. This is blasphemy. How can Lord Jagannath not have feet? Jagannath ji walks. Jagannath ji has lotus feet, very beautiful lotus feet. If we can have feet, why Lord Jagannath cannot have feet? This is nonsense. So we should never speak or think like this. Lord Jagannath has perfect bodily features, ecstatic bodily features. He is Mahabhav Swarup. Lord Jagannath, Mahabhav Swarup. He is in Vraj Bhav, he is in Vrindavan Bhav, feeling separation, feeling love for Shri Vrindavan Dham and for Srimati Radharani. That is Lord Jagannath, a very special form. You take Krishna out of Vrindavan, Krishna feels so much Vipralambha, so much separation from Vrindavan, so much separation from Radharani. When Krishna yearns and longs for Shri Radha, for Shri Vrindavan Dham, then he becomes Jagannath, the ecstatic form. He's Shyam Sundar. So he reached out, Bimala Prasad, 5-month-old boy, he reached out to touch the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath immediately reciprocated by offering his own garland, which fell from his transcendental body and encircled the child Bimala Prasad. Just visualize this. There is a crowd of lakhs and lakhs of pilgrims, millions and millions of devotees. There is so much crowding, and Jagannath Rath comes and just stops right in front of the house of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahārāj. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to reciprocate with Jagannath, organizes something that is most dear to Lord Jagannath, more dear than Bhoga. Yes, Jagannath likes to eat, but more than accepting Bhoga, Sri Jagannath accepts Harinam Sankirtan. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu worshipped Jagannath every day with Harinam Sankirtan. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur organized Harinam Sankirtan. And when his 5-month-old son was taken and placed at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, Bimala Prasad, 5-month-old, tried to reach for the lotus feet of Jagannath, and Jagannath reciprocated. Ye athamam prapadyante tam satheva bhajamyaham. Jagannath miraculously dropped his own garland and it fell and encircled Bimala Prasad. No one had to give Bimala Prasad, oh, you can take this. No, it fell around Bimala Prasad, encircled him completely, indicating that Lord Jagannath himself gave his garland to Bimala Prasad. That same day, Bimala Prasad's Anna Prashan ceremony, Anna Prashan Samskar took place. Function of eating first grains. It was conducted with Jagannath's Mahaprasad. We see in the life of Srila Narottam Das Thakur also, whose Tithi was on Sunday. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, when he was born in a very aristocratic, rich family as the son of Shri Krishnananda Raja, when he was approximately 6 months old, the Anna Prashana Samskar was to happen. And Anna, rice, was given to the little Narottam. And Srila Narottam Das Thakur refused to accept. When they would try to put rice in his mouth, he would close his lips, turn away, and with his little hand he would push away the Anna. He would just not eat. And there was a Vaishnava Brahman present there who saw this, smiled, and he said, in my jholi, I have got some Mahaprasad rice. Let's give Narottam this. And as soon as that Mahaprasad rice, which was the Mahaprasad of Lord Krishna, was given to the 6-month-old Narottam, Narottam with his right hand, he accepted that Mahaprasad rice and finished it completely. He finished the whole bowl of rice. So a devotee always eats Krishna Prasad, nothing else. Yadnya Shishtashana Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbhishai. A Santa always takes what is Yadnya Shishta, what is offered to Krishna in Yadnya. Also performed along with Annaprashan Samskar was the traditional ceremony of placing the baby amid various objects such as rice paddy, money, and scriptures to see which one he will clasp as indicative of his future vocational propensity. The child's Bimla Prasad's spontaneous grasping of Srimad Bhagavatam further intimated everyone his devotional inclination. So when this samskar took place, these are very important samskars in Bengal. Annaprashan, he took Jagannath's Mahaprasad, and when that ceremony was conducted where different objects are kept, we read in Chaitanya Bhagavat also, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had that ceremony, Nimai. And similarly, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur also took Srimad Bhagavatam and held it to his heart. When Bimla Prasad was 10 months old, his mother, Shri Bhagavati Devi, brought him by a palanquin, palki, to Rana Ghat in Nadia district, Bengal, where he spent his early years. So he was born in Jagannath Puri, and Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada grew up in Nadia, Navadvip area. Bimla Prasad was not more than 4 years old when an incident occurred that foretold the character of this future Acharya. Hare Krishna. Any guess what this incident is? When he was 4 years old, raise your hand if you want to take a guess. What could this be? Yes. Satyarupa Mataji. You can unmute, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, is it the mango incident, Prabhuji?
Yes. Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. Bimla Prasad took a mango before it had been offered to the family Govardhan Shila. Their family deity was Giriraj, Govardhan Shila. He had a name also, I'm forgetting the name, but their family deity was Govardhan Shila, for which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur rebuked him. He ate a mango without offering it to go. He was 4 years old. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur chastised. All food is to be enjoyed by Lord Krishna. Nothing should be taken unless first offered to Krishna. You have committed a serious offense. Hare Krishna. The child, Bimla Prasad, became greatly contrite and immediately vowed to never again eat mangoes. In later years, after he had become an acknowledged spiritual leader, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada was often offered mangoes, but he always refused, saying, I am an offender. Hare Krishna. I am an offender. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Everything within the universe is controlled and owned by Ishwar, Krishna. Tena tyaktena bhunjita ma gridha kasyasvid dhanam. Therefore, one should accept only those things which are necessary for oneself, not do atyahar. We should only accept things which are set aside as one's quota and should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Even in Bimla Prasad's childhood, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur made chanting compulsory for him. The lesson for all of us, we have to make chanting compulsory for children. Little bit, whatever they can. In 1881, so 74-81. So he was 7 years old. Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur was 7 years old approximately. In 1881, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had tulsi beads brought from Jagannath Puri for Bimla Prasad and instructed him in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on those tulsi japa beads. He also initiated Bimla Prasad into a mantra worshipping Lord Narsimhadev. There are different opinions as to which Narsimha mantra was given, but His Holiness Indraduma Swami Mahārāj reveals what this was. Everybody, all of you must have heard that story. So, by the mercy of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Mahārāj, His Holiness Indraduma Swami Mahārāj received this mantra from Srila Prabhupada's dear God brother and the disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada. By His divine grace, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Mahārāj. He received this mantra from Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur. Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada received this mantra from Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And who did Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur receive the Narsimha mantra from? Raise your hand if you remember, or if you know. Evam parampara praptam. Who gave the mantra of Lord Narasimhadev to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yes, Vamshi Vadan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranam from his Shiksha Guru.
Who is Shiksha Guru?
Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj.
No, Kavita Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Bipin Bihari Prabhuji.
Srila Bipin Bihari Maharaj. No. Parima Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I think Narasimhadev appeared and he gave the mantra.
Yes, very good, very good. Shri Narasimhadev Bhagwan himself appeared to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and gave this confidential Narasimha mantra and said that this mantra is specially for the preachers of Hare Krishna movement and it will protect you. And this mantra protected Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahārāj. He gave it to his son. He had so many sons, we saw, 8 sons. But he gave it to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to Bimla Prasad, Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhu, knowing that he would become the Parivrajaka Paramhamsa sannyasi preacher. Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada gave it to very selected sannyasi disciples at his time while he was present on this earth. And Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada gave it to Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Mahārāj. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Mahārāj decided to give it to a ISKCON sannyasi because he said, your Prabhupada, Swami Mahārāj, he has established this international society and you have many dynamic preachers. So I want to give it to one of the preachers, sannyasi. And it was offered to Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Mahārāj. But out of his magnanimous, compassionate heart, Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Mahārāj requested if His Holiness Indraduma Swami Mahārāj would receive it instead. And then the mantra was given to His Holiness Indraduma Swami Mahārāj. And Srila Indraduma Swami Mahārāj, with a grateful heart and tearful eyes, recollected this incident after the disappearance of Srila Bhakti Charu Swami Mahārāj. That if Srila Bhakti Charu Mahārāj had received this mantra himself, then he would have been protected from COVID. But instead, he was so compassionate that he gave it to Srila Indraduma Swami Mahārāj. He gave the opportunity to Srila Indraduma Swami Mahārāj. He got it from Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Mahārāj. So that is the story of that Narasimha mantra. It was given to Bimla Prasad. That same year, in the year 1881, a Kurmadev Shaligram Shila was found unearthed while he was building a house to be named Bhakti Bhavan in the Rambagan neighborhood of Calcutta. Although according to social custom, a thus discovered Shaligram Shila or deity of Vishnu should be presented to a member of the Brahman caste, as only born Brahmans were considered to be fit for worship of such forms. Thakur Bhaktivinoda responded to Bimla's desire to worship that Kurmadev Shila and taught him the process and the appropriate mantras. From that time, Bimla Prasad started wearing tilak and followed other standard devotional practices, making his formal entry into Vaishnava Dharma. So traditionally, my dear friends, of course in ISKCON we start wearing tilak even before we are initiated. But the tradition is, unless one is initiated, one does not wear kanthimala, tulsi kanthimala, and does not wear the tilak, because kanthimala and tilak are given by Shri Guru at the time of initiation. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur followed this. He did not wear until he received Diksha. And Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada also followed this. But of course, now it is little difficult to get initiation. Previously, the parents were very qualified and they would only initiate when a child was hardly less than 10 years old. But now we don't have that fortune. So we start wearing. At least we are, in our heart, we are connected to the Shri Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. While still very young, Bimla Prasad composed 2 Sanskrit verses describing the impression of Lord Chaitanya's feet melted in stone within the Jagannath temple. The gist being that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart was so tender in distributing love of Krishna Prem, and so distressed at the unhappiness of others, Paradukha Dukhi, that even the stone where he placed his lotus feet became soft and melted with love. This is very beautiful. Such a beautiful composition. Bimla Prasad was clearly not an ordinary boy. He had exceptional ability to remember and comprehend all kinds of topics. His voracious reading and his ability to exactly recall passages he had read only once were to earn him the epithet, living encyclopedia. Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada was living encyclopedia. He was Shrutidhar. Once he would hear something, read something, he would remember. Even in his last days, he could reproduce verbatim any part of any book he had read 50 years ago. Very amazing. His precocious genius was accompanied by a gravity. Guru means gravity, heavy, and intensity of purpose, uncommon at such a tender age. Like Prahlad Mahārāj and other great child devotees before him, Shri Bimla Prasad did not waste time in frivolous sports or similar nugatory diversions. From the beginning, he was absorbed in fulfilling the mission of human life and spontaneously attracted to Krishna Bhakti. Shri Bihari Das Babaji, the personal servant of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj, described young Bimla Prasad. So Bihariji was the personal servant of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj. It was Shri Bihariji who carried Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj in the basket on his head. So Shri Bihari Das Babaji Mahārāj, the personal servant of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj, is speaking about Shri Bimla Prasad, who he saw as a child. I often saw Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī in his childhood in Kolkata at the house of Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākur, whenever I visited there with Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj. Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākur Prabhupada would wear only a pull-over shirt. He struck me as having a serious nature. I was attracted by his effulgence and learning. He was always attached to the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We should not let too much time pass before we chant the Hare Krishna Maha. Even when we are doing Hari Katha or we are doing some work, anything we are in a meeting, you should take a break and just chant few times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Just like a child, maybe playing, but every now and then the child looks at the parents. Parents are there, so the child feels safe. Similarly, we should keep taking shelter of the holy name every now and then, even if we are not able to loudly chant it. Attached to the holy name. In his earlier years, his frame was very lean, very thin. Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāj loved him dearly. Bas. This, my dear friends, is the perfection of life. To become dear to a Mahabhagavat. Once a reputed Babaji noticed that Bimla had failed to pay his obeisances. Hare Krishna. Once a reputed Babaji noticed that Bimla Prasad had failed to pay him obeisances. When the Babaji asked Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākur why this was so, he was told, because he does not offer Dandavat to Sahajiyas. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada ki jai. Because he does not offer Dandavat to Sahajiyas. Srila Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākur saw in his son the potential to carry forward the propaganda work he had begun. Thus, he took him to preaching engagements, to holy places, to meet sadhus, and directed him to apply his scintillating intelligence in studying Vaishnava philosophy and doctrines opposed to it. The Ishopanishad tells us that we should know what is Vidya and what is Avidya. Both are to be known. So Srila Shripad Ramanujacharya also, he studied the commentary of Shripad Shankaracharya. And he studied the Vedanta Sutra also. Both he studied. Why? Because to defeat the wrong Siddhanta, we must know it. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada would sit and he would tell Shyam Sundar Prabhu, tell me, what is the philosophy of Marx? What is the philosophy of Darwin? What is the philosophy of this philosopher, Emerson, that, everything. And Prabhupada would analyze it through the lens of Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. So that is important. So, young Bimla Prasad took naturally to such training, osmotically imbibing his father's mood of full surrender to Krishna and compassionate desire to inspire Hari Bhakti in others. So now further details of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada are given here, but we will pause because we are going to discuss about Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj. So Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada had many disciples, and among them the prominent disciple is our founder Acharya, Srila Abhay Charana Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Mahārāj Prabhupada, who established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, for the there are 7 purposes, but the underlying theme is to make the whole world truly happy through Krishna consciousness. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. So let us read. I would like to read, just continue from where we left off, but we will read one chapter today. So last time we read till chapter 8 of this book, When Good Fortune Arises. Today we will do only one chapter, chapter 9. I was going to do 2 chapters, but we are already at 53 minutes. So we will do one chapter, chapter 9 of this book. Very beautiful chapter. This chapter is entitled New Hope. See, after any great Acharya leaves this planet, there is difficulty. Because the Acharya is like sun. And when the Acharya leaves, there is darkness. When Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur left, there was a great void. When Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Thakur Prabhupada left, there was a great void. When our Srila Prabhupada left, there was a great void. There was darkness. So when Srila Prabhupada left, the parampara had to continue. So many devotees took up the service of becoming Diksha Gurus. But being a Diksha Guru is perhaps the most difficult service in this universe, to become the spiritual master. Because Guru means heavy. A spiritual master has to be heavy with realization. A spiritual master has to be heavy by always carrying Krishna in the heart. A spiritual master has to be heavy with Tattva Siddhānta. And if one is not fully self-realized, one is not a Uttamadhikari, and one accepts many disciples, and the disciples are not following the principles, then the Diksha Guru is sure to fall down. Sure to fall down. If the spiritual master is not self-realized and takes on many disciples who are not following the principles. And the fact is, most disciples do not follow the principles properly. So what happens is, when the Diksha Gurus were having spiritual difficulties and they fell down, it created a lot of faithlessness, a lot of disturbance in the minds of the devotees in general. And then many wrong philosophies were born as a result of the fall down of so many gurus. For example, the Ritvik philosophy, where people said, now, okay, we don't want any gurus only. Only Prabhupada is the guru. Prabhupada is the last final Acharya, last final Diksha Guru. So that is a Apasiddhanta. It is a wrong conclusion. But why was it born? What was the impetus for this type of thinking? It was because many gurus were falling down. So it is very unfortunate this happened, but it was a time in the 1980s where devotees were losing faith because they saw many deviations within ISKCON. They saw many problems within ISKCON. And devotees were losing faith in the 1980s. In the 1970s, Srila Prabhupada was there. He was a perfect Acharya. But after Srila Prabhupada left, there was hopelessness and faithlessness. So this chapter, chapter 9, is called New Hope. Now the Acharya will rise. Don't be pessimistic. As he had been doing since 1985, Shri Srimad Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj continued to travel to various places in Europe, America, and Australia. In 1984, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj became a Diksha Guru. Later he became GBC. 1985, Srila Gour Govinda Mahārāj started traveling, mainly to North America, Europe, and Australia. Several times over the years, he had commented how sorry he was to see that the devotees in America and other places had lost their faith. Hare Krishna. For a devotee, faith is most important. Shraddha is the foundation of our bhakti. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj says, quote, "Don't feel depressed or disappointed. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. Shri Krishna is there. Srila Prabhupada is there. Chant loudly. This is very important, my dear friends. We should chant loudly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. From the heart, from the kantha. Let the sound vibrations spread. Let everyone benefit. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chant loudly and fill the atmosphere with transcendental sound vibration. You should have full, complete faith in the holy name, in Gopal, in Krishna, in Mahaprabhu. Don't feel desperate or despondent at any time, under any circumstances. There is no question of pessimism in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. There is no question of pessimism in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Kevala Ananda Kanda. There is all optimism. I have seen during my tour that now this pessimism is widespread amongst devotees in America. Seeing that, I feel very sorry. I am crying in my heart. What has happened? My Guru Mahārāj Srila Prabhupada came here first. He sowed the seed here in America. Now what has happened? They have lost faith. Oh, such a sorry state of affairs. Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj said like this. He was concerned about Srila Prabhupada's movement and the devotees in it. By his preaching, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj wanted to help restore the faith that some of the devotees had lost. Now see what happens, dear devotees. Hari Hari. His Grace Hari Vilas Das tells us from Seattle. Now, Srila Hari Vilas Maharaj is a Diksha Guru. He's one of our Gurujans in ISKCON. Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru. Lives in Seattle, Washington State. So, Shri Hari Vilas Das recollects, quote, Shri Srimad Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj was explaining the qualification of a genuine Guru. This was an important question for the devotees. Maharaj could understand that there was a dilemma at that time as to who was a bona fide Guru and who could take someone back to Godhead. He spent a long time explaining this point. In fact, every night he would touch on it. The devotees really appreciated it because some of them at that time had already had two spiritual masters. First spiritual master fell down, so the devotee got initiated again. Then the second spiritual master fell down. They didn't know what to do. Do you want to make a third mistake? It was a great relief for many devotees to see a genuine sadhu like Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj. Someone who was his whole life dedicated to Krishna consciousness and who spoke with authority and who was able to not only lecture but give a whole deep understanding of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. His Holiness Damodar Swami recollects, quote, I had the good fortune to receive the glance of Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj in the ISKCON temple in Melbourne, Australia, around mid-September in the year 1994. Please listen carefully, my dear friends. This is pure nectar. I had joined the temple, Melbourne, Australia, as a full-time devotee some months earlier in 1994. But I was disappointed with what I had found there. There seemed such a vast difference between what I was reading in the books of Srila Prabhupada and what I was experiencing in my day-to-day life as a devotee. That dichotomy seemed impossible. Out of frustration, I prayed to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, please send me a spiritual master like you. Srila Prabhupada, please send me a spiritual master like you. Within a day or two, I got a copy of some lectures from Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. And when I played the tape, I heard Srila Gaur Govind Maharaj roaring like a lion. Quote, the pure devotee possesses Krishna and he can give Krishna to the disciple. Please raise your hand if you can tell what the reference is for this. Yes, Laukik Nanda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It's from a song, Krishna ji tomara, Krishna dite para.
Tomara.
Tomara
Very
sak-
nice. Very nice, Laukik Nanda Prabhu. Excellent. Thank you. Srila Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura Mahārāj has written that. So Srila Gour Govind Mahārāj is quoting, the pure devotee possesses Krishna and he can give Krishna to the disciple. The guru who does not possess Krishna is simply a cheater. Unquote. These words pierce my heart. Damodar Swami is remembering this. These words of Srila Gour Govind Mahārāj pierced my heart, and I knew that I had found my spiritual master. After a few days in Melbourne, we went with Srila Gour Govind Mahārāj to the farm outside the city, where he gave the most amazing talk. He told us how we had to cry for the mercy of Nitai. We have to cry for the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Ara kabe Nitai chande karuna hoibe samsara vasana mora kabe tuchha habe vishaya chadiya kabe shuddha habe mana kabe amaheribo Shri Vrindavana. Ha ha Prabhu Nityananda Premananda Sukhi Kripa Balokana Koro Ami Bodo Dukhi. You have to cry for the mercy of Nitai, Srila Gour Govind Mahārāj said. It was like a thunderbolt smashing my mountain of pride while illuminating my heart with great hope. I have to cry for the mercy of Nitai. That night I could not sleep. And early the next morning, I asked Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj's servant for a darshan with Mahārāj. I entered the room and offered my respects to Srila Gour Govind Mahārāj. He had all the time in the world for me. I was so excited. I blurted out, "Can you be my guru?" Srila Gour Govind Mahārāj laughed a lot and said very affectionately, "Please slow down. Who are you? What is your name? Where do you live? What do you do?" He's just so excited. "Will you be my guru?" Straight. The next topic is sitting up front. This is very important. Sanatan Das, please listen carefully. Sanatan Das joined the Los Angeles temple in the year 1984, where he was initiated by the local zonal guru. There was the zonal acharya system at that time in ISKCON, which has been rightly stopped long ago. So Sanatan Das joined Los Angeles temple in 1984, where he was initiated by the local zonal guru. Sanatan Das was devastated 2 years later in 1986 when his guru fell down and left ISKCON. After this, although he was told that reinitiation was necessary because his faith was shattered in the ISKCON gurus, he decided to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada according to the Ritvik idea. Hare Krishna. A few years later, after hearing a tape lecture of Srila Prabhupada, wherein Srila Prabhupada says, one must take shelter of a living Bhagavat. Prabhupada himself says, one must take shelter of a living guru. At that time, Sanatan Das realized that he must find shelter of a real living guru and be disciplined by him. See, a real living guru can chastise us, can answer our questions directly, can discipline us, punish us, tell us what to do, tell us what not to do, based on our particular time, place, circumstances. So we need a living guru. Sanatan Das remembers, I would enter the temple room every afternoon when nobody was around and stand before Srila Prabhupada and reveal my heart to him. He would stand before the deity of Srila Prabhupada and reveal his heart, saying, I now realize by your mercy, Srila Prabhupada, that I need to take shelter of a bona fide living spiritual master. But unless I get a guru like you, I cannot surrender. Please help me. Once bitten, twice shy. Doodh ka jala, chhas ko bhi fuk fuk kar pita hai. Once guru fell down, now here he was very careful. Now this time, I don't want to be cheated. I don't want a bogus guru. I want a genuine guru. I want a guru who will not fall down. I want a guru who is Gaur Premijan. In June of 1992, this was 1986 when his guru fell down. Now, June of 1992, when Sanatana Das heard that Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj was coming to San Francisco, he decided to go meet him. Now, where he had joined, which temple? He had joined Los Angeles temple. So he drove hundreds of miles to San Francisco. He decided to go meet him. Sanatana Das arrived at the house where Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj was speaking. Please listen carefully, this is very sweet. Not seeing a readily available seat, he sat down on a sofa opposite Srila Gaur Govinda Mahārāj on the same level. Somehow the class didn't resonate with him and he felt he wasn't getting anything. This is very common. If the heart is not fertile, even if we hear Srila Prabhupada, we hear Srila Gaur Govinda Mahārāj, we hear any bona fide spiritual master, we hear Srila Jayapataka Swami Mahārāj, we hear any of our bona fide spiritual masters, it will not penetrate the heart. Why? It will not penetrate? Because we are not ready. Not that the Guru is not potent, we are not fertile. We sat on the same level as Srila. How? Tad vidhi pranipat. First, there should be pranipat, there should be obeisances, there should be surrender. You're sitting on the sofa on the same level as Srila Gaur Govinda. Somehow the class did not resonate with him and he felt he wasn't getting anything. Feeling extremely disappointed, he considered immediately returning back to Los Angeles. After some deliberation and not finding anyone to catch a ride back to Los Angeles, he decided to stay on in San Francisco for a few more days. Then he went to another lecture of Srila Gaur Govinda Mahārāj, which Mahārāj gave at Haight-Ashbury Street. Again, Sanatana Das did not feel any inspiration. Sanatana Das remembers, the next morning, while chanting, I began to pray to Shri Shri Gaur Nitai. Something is wrong in my heart that I cannot hear Srila Gaur Govinda Mahārāj properly. Please remove whatever obstacles are in my heart so I can hear Mahārāj in a proper way. Nice prayer. That morning, Sanatana Das went to Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj's class at the Berkeley temple. Now Mahārāj had come to Berkeley, California. Berkeley temple lecture. Sanatana Das came in and sat down some distance from the front, feeling somewhat nervous due to Srila Gaur Govinda Mahārāj's strong speaking and powerful demeanor. 5 minutes into the class, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj quoted a verse from Sri Chaitanya Shikshashtakam. He suddenly pointed to Sanatana Das and asked, what is the translation of this verse? Sanatana Das remembers, I sat there stunned and embarrassed, not knowing the answer. Much to my horror, Srila Gaur Govinda Mahārāj then called me over to sit directly in front of him and then began directing his entire talk towards me. What is your name? Sanatana Das. Sanatan, are you crying for Krishna? Are you crying for Krishna? No? No? Dry, not crying for Krishna. Only crying for material things. Hare Krishna. Throughout the lecture, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj kept addressing me with different questions. Suddenly, everything he spoke started to become clear. At that time, I began praying to the deities of Shri Shri Gaur Nitai on the altar, asking them, if this is my Guru, then please give me some sign. I noted that Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj was wearing a garland. So I made a request to the deities Shri Shri Gaur Nitai. If Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj gives me his garland at the end of the lecture, then I will know that he is my Guru. During the lecture, a young girl came forward and gave Mahārāj a second garland. By the time the class had finished, I had been so absorbed in the class that I had forgotten the request I had made to Shri Shri Gaur Nitai about receiving the garland. Everyone stood up and Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj was surrounded by a number of devotees who were asking questions. I was some distance away when Mahārāj took off one garland from around his neck and threw it to one of the devotees nearby. I then remembered my prayer and my heart sank. I felt so disappointed. Mahārāj was facing away from me towards some of the other devotees. But I noticed he still had one garland. And then I noticed Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj removing the second garland and rolling it into a ball. Suddenly he turned around and threw the second garland like a baseball pitch. It struck me hard right in my chest. And I caught it. I caught the garland. I then felt very ashamed for having asked Shri Gour Nitai for such proof. But now I had my confirmation that Srila Gour Govind Swami Mahārāj was my guru. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Pummeling my false ego. Sanatan Das further remembers, a week or so later, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj came to Los Angeles. I went to see my friend Murli Krishna Das, who was living there with his family. I knew that Murli Krishna Das had been going through a crisis of faith regarding Guru and had been praying to Krishna for help. I knocked on his door and said, Murli, there is a special sadhu speaking tonight. You have to come to class. Seeing that he looked skeptical, I said, Murli, this is the real deal. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Murli, this is the real deal. So, Sanatan Das told Murli Krishna Das that this is the real deal. Similar thing happened in the life of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada also had seen many bogus gurus and was skeptical when one of his friends told him that there is a genuine sadhu who is going to speak. Let's go meet him. Who was the friend? What was the friend's name? Raise your hand if you remember. Yes, Shrikant Prabhu. Shrikant Prabhu.
Yeah, Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī.
Correct. Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Ṭhākura Prabhupada was a sadhu. But who was the friend of Prabhupada? Who told? Yes, Vamshivadan Prabhu.
Narendranath Malik.
Very good, correct. Shri Narendra Malik. He became the Vartama Pradarshak Guru in one way to Srila Prabhupada. So, he is the real deal. You please come. So, Murli Krishna Das replied, oh, I hope he is. I hope so. Remembering what had happened to me the previous week, when we arrived at the temple, I told Murli Krishna Das, oh, one important thing. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj's accent is very hard to understand. So you have to sit close to him. Sit in the front. Murli Krishna Das took a seat near Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj. When he sat down, he looked back at me with a puzzled look on his face, obviously wondering why I was sitting so far away. A few minutes into the class, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj suddenly directed his attention to Murli Krishna. What is your name? Mahārāj, my name is Murli Krishna Das. Oh, Murli Krishna Das. That's a very beautiful name. Don't be a pretender, Murli Krishna Das. Become the real Das of Murli Krishna. Don't just make a show. Murli Krishna Das remembers, quote, over the next hour, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj began to pummel my false ego to pieces. It was one of the most intense experiences of my life. He crushed my pride and exposed me in front of my family and friends. Although it was the first time I had ever met him, I felt as if he knew me to the core of my heart, that he knew me better than anyone else in my life. I felt that this was a true manifestation of the super soul. While sitting there in the class, without ever even speaking to Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj before, I knew in my heart that this was my spiritual master. At one point in the class, I turned to Srila Prabhupada and silently prayed to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, you have answered my prayers. Somehow you have sent this personality to help me to serve you. It was the first time I had ever heard from Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj, but I felt ready to dedicate my entire life to him. Rajendra Nandan Das remembers, I had heard a lot about Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj from my godbrother Bhagvat Prabhu. So when Maharaj came to San Diego in 1992, wanting to listen very attentively to everything he said, I sat up front. Wanting to listen very attentively, I sat up front. When he asked a question, I immediately put my hand up to volunteer the answer. He listened and said, Suddenly he started asking me more questions. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? It felt like he was intensely shining a spotlight of devotion on me. His words were so cutting that I thought, he preaches a lot like Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Prabhupada. He doesn't mince words. He gave the absolute truth as it is. A miser or a Brahman. Yadunandan Das was a young brahmachari in Spain. Please listen nicely, carefully. Today is the disappearance day of Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. Yadunandan Das was a young brahmachari in Spain. As he was a fluent speaker in both English and Spanish, he often translated for various visiting preachers. Yadunandan Swami. I had the good fortune to receive the affection and blessings of Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. Sometimes he would deal in a loving way, and sometimes he would chastise me very strongly. Once, when I was translating for him in Spain, he was quoting an Upanishad verse that appears in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita purports about who is a Kripana, a miser, and who is a Brahmana. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj suddenly turned and pointing at me said, Yadunandan, are you a Brahmana or are you a Kripana? I had to lower my head and admit, I am a Kripana. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj would start giving class, but it was only an introduction to the Bhagavatam. Then after a half hour or 1 hour, he would actually start the real class. The normal classes usually finished by this time. Sitting there for so long, my young restless mind was troubling me and I started fidgeting and changing my position. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj suddenly stopped and said, why are you moving so much? From this I could understand that I should enter into the inner reality of hearing the Bhagavatam and not pay so much attention to my body and mind. Even though it was sometimes very painful, I never minded Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj's chastisement. I understood that he was doing it for my benefit. Can you give me one example from Gaur Lila where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised somebody heavily and he took that chastisement without arguing anything, even though he was not a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And this good quality made him a recipient of Krishna's mercy later. Anybody knows? Raise your hand. Somebody was chastised by Mahaprabhu heavily and he didn't say anything. He just accepted it and then got mercy. Yes, Devabhuti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's Damad.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's Damad, Amogh. Amogh actually was already humbled by cholera. He was having so much diarrhea, he was about to die. So he had already become very weak and humbled. Mahaprabhu did not chastise him. Mahaprabhu put his lotus hand on his heart and said, you are a Brahmana. You are supposed to be non-envious. Where has this poison of envy come in your heart from? So, Vamshivadana Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Is it the austere Brahmana who was brought by Srivas Ṭhākura to the...
Superb. The milk-drinking Brahmana.
Yes,
Milk-drinking Brahmana. Very nice. Shama Chandrika Mataji? Any other example? Tirtha Sundari Mataji, any other example? Yes, go ahead.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. Prabhuji, Mahaprabhu also chastised Kalya Krishnadas.
Very nice. Kalya Krishnadas was chastised. As a result, he got the mercy later on from Nityananda Prabhu. Very nice example. Kasturi Manjari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat
Hare Krishna.
Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Mukunda Prabhuji, Mukunda.
Superb example. See, so much nectar is being churned by all of you. Superb example. Mukunda was chastised. For millions of lifetimes, you will not see me. You will see me after millions of lifetimes. I will see. Started going in ecstasy. Mahaprabhu was very pleased. Parima Mataji, another example.
Prabhuji, actually, I don't know if it's appropriate, but it was Chota Haridas, even though it was his mistake, but then he did finally make it to Goloka as a Sakha of Krishna, even though it appeared that he did not receive the mercy of Mahaprabhu, but indirectly he did. So I mean, this is my thing.
He would appear in his Gandharva Swarup and
Yeah.
sing for the pleasure of Mahaprabhu. Yes. And he was chastised, not directly, but Mahaprabhu neglected him.
Yes.
And he accepted that as his fault. And very nice example, Pariva Mataji. He did receive the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Internally, Mahaprabhu was pleased with him. Very nice. Sanatan Nitai Prabhu, another example of Mahaprabhu chastising and the devotee taking the chastisement quietly without justifying.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, sorry, maybe I'm missing the name, but there was one narrator of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Very
who was
nice.
narrating wrong. Vakreshwar Pandit or?
No. The assistant of Vakreshwar Pandit.
Yes.
The Kripa Patra of Vakreshwar Pandit, Shri Devananda Pandit.
Devananda Pandit, yes. Prabhuji.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Devananda Pandit. He was chastised heavily. Mahaprabhu said, I will tear your Bhagavatam to pieces. You rascal, you have no authority to touch Srimad Bhagavatam. You fool, you are reading Grantha Bhagavat and you are insulting Bhakta Bhagavat. You are reading and teaching Grantha Bhagavat and you are insulting Bhakta Bhagavat. You have no right to touch Grantha Bhagavat. Srivas Ṭhākura was thrown out of your assembly and you are sitting on the Vyasasana happily giving academic lecture on Bhagavatam, and Srivas Ṭhākura had to hold him back. And Devananda Pandit did not say anything. He just accepted the chastisement. And that was his good quality. Yes, Meenakshi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Mahaprabhu chastising Advaita Acharya for teaching impersonalism.
Very nice. Very nice example. Not only chastising, but beating.
Yeah.
Devoti Mataji also gave that same example, message. Very nice. Thank you, dear devotees, because of all of you. Such nice nectar was churned. So the lesson for us is, when we are chastised by our superiors, we should just take it for our purification. We should take it properly. And we should do manan. We should think, why this devotee is chastising me? He has a good point. He wants me to improve in this. Even when Ramchandra Puri criticized Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for overeating, although Mahaprabhu was not overeating, Mahaprabhu cut his eating into half. Hare Krishna. So we should make allowance for the criticism that comes our way. Okay. I am a Kripana. He accepted. Yadunandan Swami accepted. I am a Kripana. He would start giving class, but it was only an introduction. For my benefit. We should understand. I never minded Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj's chastisement. I understood it was for my benefit. He was doing it for my benefit. Now, very beautiful nectar is coming. Maya Das. Dayal Baldev Das remembers, quote, I was a new devotee in the Bhakti Vedanta manner in 1992 when Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj visited. I attended one or two of his classes and noted that he would sometimes pick on people in the front. So the next morning when I came, I sat in the very back. I was feeling very tired and was leaning up against the wall. Sleep was attacking me heavily and I was struggling to stay awake in the class. Dayal Baldev Das was struggling to stay awake in the class. The next thing I knew, a devotee named Indriyash Prabhu was trying to wake me up. Prabhu, wake up. I had fallen deeply asleep and wasn't even aware of where I was. We have to be careful about this. Sometimes devotees have even snored loudly in the class. So we have to be careful. I think I am also guilty of that. So devotees sometimes fall asleep and they start snoring. And then the snoring disturbs the class. So we have to be careful. We should not do. A very nice service we can do in class is to sit with a straight back and hear attentively. That is a good service to the speaker and to all the assembled devotees. Because when everybody sees a nice devotee sitting with a straight back, eagerly hearing, enthusiastically listening, doing Shravanam, then it creates positive energy for others also to follow. So he was sleeping. Indriyash Prabhu was saying, wake up, wake up. Next thing I knew was a devotee named Indriyash Prabhu was trying to wake me up. I had fallen deeply asleep and wasn't even aware of where I was. Indriyash kept pushing me. Then suddenly I became aware of Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj shouting, why are you sleeping in class? Are you coming here to get Krishna? or to sleep and snore. For the next 20 minutes, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj began intensely hammering me in front of everyone. I felt like I was sitting in front of Lord Narasimhadev. Even though it was extremely intense, somehow I didn't get upset. Even in one sense, I was enjoying it because I understood that he was doing it out of mercy. At the end, he said, "So, are you Mayadas or are you Krishnadas?" I said, "Mahārāj, I am Mayadas." That evening, I went to see Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj, and I was surprised to find that he seemed to be the complete opposite of the person I had seen earlier. He seemed to be like a kitten, very gentle, sweet, and humble. He apologized for the way he reprimanded me that morning and explained it was nothing personal against me. He said that he spoke that way for the benefit of everyone. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj, now please listen carefully. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj came again to the Bhaktivedanta manor a year later. So 1993, he came again. I was there the first day when Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj arrived at the morning program. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj came in the temple and went to offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Mahārāj had some physical disability and was unable to offer obeisances by himself. Usually I stay in the back, but somehow that day I was standing up front. Seeing me, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj's servant, Sachinandan Das, called me over. He said, "Can you help Mahārāj offer obeisances?" I said, "Well, yes, I guess so, sure." Sachinandan Das, Mahārāj's personal servant, said, "Just watch me and do exactly what I do. Support his elbow in one hand, support his wrist in your other hand, then help him to go down, offer obeisances, and when he wants to get up again, you lift him up in the same manner." I did as he said, and Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj offered his obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. After we helped him back up, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj turned and looked at me. Seeing me, his face lit up with a huge smile. He said, "Thank you, Mayadas, for your service." Mahārāj remembered. Now this is very sweet. Breakfast or lunch. Deva Prasthadas remembers. I was cooking at Villa Vrindavan in Italy. I was cooking at Villa Vrindavan when Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj came in 1995. This is 1 year before his entering Nitya Leela. In 1996, Mahārāj disappeared. So in 1995, Mahārāj came to Villa Vrindavan. During the first morning, while Mahārāj was giving class, I was cooking. He was cooking breakfast for the devotees. I finished preparing the devotees' breakfast by about 9 a.m. The lecture was supposed to finish in 1 hour. I was waiting and waiting, but Mahārāj kept speaking. I kept going to the temple hall to see what was going on. And then on returning to the kitchen, I would make everything warm again. This went on until after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Bhagavatam class started at 8 o'clock. It was supposed to be 8 to 9. It went on from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. 5 hours, Bhagavatam class. I was becoming confused and was thinking to myself, should we serve out lunch prasad now to the devotees instead of breakfast? What will happen to the breakfast prasadam that I have cooked? I was really surprised how personal Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj was with devotees. So this long classes should not be criticized. When Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj, Srila Prabhupada dictating his Bhaktivedanta purports for 4 hours from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning. This shows Namagane Sadaruchi. They have so much taste for Krishna Katha. Mahārāj was very personal with the devotees. He was different from any other sannyasi I had ever seen before. At that time, there were 100 to 200 devotees listening to the lectures in Villa Vrindavan. Yet, even though it was such a big crowd, he took time to single out devotees in the lecture. He would tell them, this is for you. This is for you. Are you listening? And sometimes he would instruct certain devotees to sit near him. This is very beautiful. Then, please bear with me. We are almost there. Only 2 more memories, okay? So, preaching is my life. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj says, preaching is my life. Intense traveling was taking a toll on Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj's health. In an arrival talk in America, he spoke about the difficulties of constantly moving and preaching. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj is saying, quote, I am coming to America even though my body is old and I am crippled. I have so many physical difficulties, but still I am coming. I'm traveling, touring throughout the world. I don't know how I am doing it. I feel it is Mahaprabhu's and my revered spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada's mercy potency. Nothing else. Sometimes I become amazed. How is it going on? I do not know. There is such a rush. No rest. Nothing. After a 3-hour flight lands, we get down and run to programs and speak. There's a 5, 6, sometimes 8-hour car drive. And then we speak at some program. Yet, Krishna Katha is so powerful. Though the body was feeling so tired, when I speak Krishna Katha, I get enlivened. I forget everything else. All the weakness, I forget. I feel that this is real life. Otherwise, what is this material body and material life? Once, Srila Radha Govinda Das Goswami Mahārāj instructed our Amarendra Prabhu that you should travel and preach, should go to different places and travel and preach. It is not easy, it is hard to live out of a suitcase and travel and preach. You preach, you give all your spiritual energy to a congregation, and then you go to the next city and you are tired from giving yourself out to the devotees, and you go tired to the next city, and they are fresh, they are excited, they are enthusiastic, and they are eagerly waiting for more Harinam Kirtan, more Hari Katha. They are waiting. And when you go there, you have to be fresh and satisfy the enthusiasm, the eagerness of the devotees. And then you go to the next city. It's very difficult. Our Guru Varga, we see them traveling. It is very difficult. How much they travel, how much they preach, city to city, place to place. And they are at advanced age also. They are in their 60s and 70s. So our Guru Varga, they are very great. They are traveling preachers. So that time, Srila Radha Govinda Das Goswami Mahārāj instructed Amarendra Prabhu that it is difficult to travel and preach, but you should do it. Kyunki Hari Katha hi Jivan hai. These were the words. Hari Katha hi Jivan hai. Bas. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavi bhiriditam kalmashapaham Shravana mangalam Shrimadatam bhuvi grinanti ye bhuridajana. Bhuridajana. Those who travel and speak Krishna Katha, like our Guru Varga, they are Bhurita Jana. They are very munificent, merciful. So, preaching is my life. Yet Krishna Katha is so powerful. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj is saying, though the body was feeling tired, when I speak Krishna Katha, I get enlivened. I forget everything. All the weakness that I had felt, I forget it. I feel that this is real life. Otherwise, what is this material body and material life? Unquote. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj then said a few words about his purpose in traveling and preaching. Now I'm quoting Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj. Devotees should not feel discouraged. Causeless mercy is always there. The merciful ropes are always hanging. Only you have to catch them. If you won't catch hold of the merciful ropes, how can you get it? Bhakti Rajju. That causeless mercy is always there for you. You just have to catch it. But you are not catching it. Therefore, you feel yourself disappointed. But there is no question of disappointment and pessimism in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. My Guru Mahārāj Srila Prabhupada has told me, if someone needs your help, Gaur Govinda, you give him help. So, I am just trying to execute the orders of Srila Prabhupada. Unquote. Many times, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj told devotees that preaching was his life and soul. He often said, a day without Hari Katha is a very bad day. A day without Hari Katha is a very bad day. If I cannot speak, I cannot live. And if you don't do any other sadhana, you should daily hear Srimad Bhagavatam. If you cannot do any other sadhana, you should daily hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Mahārāj, one of our Guru Jan, says, When Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj came to south of France, we had dinner together. Who is Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj? Dr. Singh, very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj came to south of France, we had dinner together. And I asked him, it seems that you have some difficulty with your body. You cannot walk freely. Doesn't this journey give you some problem? Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj replied, so long as I can preach, so long as I can speak on Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives me unlimited pleasure, unlimited happiness. This is pure devotee. Hari Katha hi Jivan hai. Dinabandhu Das recollects, quote, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj would always stress to us the importance of sadhu sangha, association of a premi bhakta, and the constant hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. Once in Adelaide, Australia, Adelaide is in Australia or New Zealand? I don't know. In Adelaide, we had to arrange for a fire yajna. And Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj told me that he would not give class that morning because of the fire yajna. Please listen, this is very sweet. When I expressed my disappointment, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj solemnly looked at me and said, Dinabandhu, this Srimad Bhagavatam is my life and soul. The day I can no longer speak this Bhagavad Tattva, I will not be able to maintain this life any longer. At this, I replied, if we hold the fire yajna later in the day, then would you please speak Srimad Bhagavatam class today? Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj replied, yes, this would please me very much. Then in full humility, like a small child asking his father, he said, would you do this for me, please? So in ecstasy, we arranged everything for his pleasure. We were all amazed to hear the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam that he spoke that morning. Bold and uncompromising. Last page. Wherever he went, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj spoke boldly and never compromised the truth, even if it was unpalatable. In USA, in 1993, please listen to this. This is very, very important, my dear friends. In 1993, a senior devotee came to Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj with a question. Please listen carefully. Maharaj, I have been preaching for a long time in this area, and some senior devotees are encouraging me to become a Diksha Guru. They are encouraging me to accept disciples. I wasn't actually thinking about doing it, as I'm not really qualified. But on the other hand, it would encourage some of the people that I have been preaching to. And since many senior devotees have been encouraging me to go ahead, I wanted to ask you, what is the minimum qualification for being a Diksha Guru? What is the minimum qualification for becoming a Guru, spiritual master? Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj smiled and said, the minimum qualification for becoming a Guru is that when you chant Japa, nothing else comes into your mind except Shri Krishna. I repeat, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj said, the minimum qualification for becoming a Guru is that when you chant Japa, nothing else comes into your mind except for Shri Krishna. When the devotee heard this, he visibly choked a little and said, that is a very high qualification. What is the minimum qualification? Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj laughed and said, this is the minimum qualification. If you are not on that platform and you become a Guru, then you may fall down. His Holiness Chandramouli Swami Maharaj remembers, quote, I remember when Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj visited the new Vrindavan community in 1993. At that time, for some years prior, the community had altered its presentation of Krishna consciousness by adopting some of the external paraphernalia and method of expression of Christianity, which included changing from wearing dhoti kurta to Christian style clothes. In a lecture during his visit, Srila Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj cited the pastime from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, wherein Sri Brahmananda Bharati came before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wearing a deer skin. Seeing Sri Brahmananda Bharati wearing the deer skin, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pretended not to see him. Instead, he asked, Mukundatta, Where is Brahmananda Bharati, my spiritual master? Shri Mukundatta said, here is Brahmananda Bharati just standing before you. Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, you are incorrect. This is not Shri Brahmananda Bharati. So then Brahmananda Bharati immediately understood that Mahaprabhu doesn't approve of me wearing a deer skin. So he went, changed his clothes, wore simple saffron robes of a sannyasi and came. Then Mahaprabhu, Shri Chaitanya Dev accepted him. Some of the new Vrindavan devotees were disturbed that Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj used this pastime from Chaitanya Charitamrita to expose the change of dress in New Vrindavan. That although many of us did not see at the time, later was understood to have been a deviation. See, Acharya can see through. I want to read just a little bit more, please. This is chapter 10, entitled Bees Around the Lotus. Gradually, more and more devotees became drawn to Bhuvaneshwar to hear classes from Sri Srimad Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj. Whenever a disciple would arrive in Bhuvaneshwar from a distant country, the unspoken policy was for them to go immediately and see their Guru Mahārāj, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj, in his hut, in his kutir. And Mahārāj was always delighted to see them. His Holiness Mahanidhi Swami recollects, the spring and summer of 1995 was a golden year for Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj's preaching, especially for the Western people. During that time, there were hundreds of devotees coming and going at Bhuvaneshwar. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj had become a Shiksha Guru for many devotees in ISKCON. Of course, he was Diksha Guru, but he was a Shiksha Guru for many devotees in ISKCON also, who had other Diksha Gurus. They were taking shelter of Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj and the Bhuvaneshwar Center. Mahārāj was regularly giving 3-hour-long Bhagavatam classes. Imagine 3-hour classes at a senior age with so many health problems. 3-hour Bhagavatam class every morning. That is a standard. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami also. Srila Gadadhar Pandit also. It was an amazing scene there, and it all centered on him. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj was like a central golden lotus flower. And all the devotees there were like bees landing on that lotus, drinking the honey to their full happiness and then buzzing off in intoxicated states of joy and fulfillment. The visiting devotees who didn't have other services would then crash out in various bedrooms and kutirs around the town and come back for more the next day. More nectar on the flower blossoms. Regarding his preaching efforts in Bhuvaneshwar, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj said, I have opened a crying school here. Unless we cry for Krishna, we cannot get his mercy. Mahanidhi Swami Mahārāj remembers, I wanted to go and hear directly from Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj's lotus mouth. So I got a room in the Bhuvaneshwar temple guest house and proceeded to hear his classes. He would start at 8 a.m. and usually go to about 11:30 a.m. He would speak and speak and speak and sing lots of bhajans. It was fantastic. It was unforgettable. I would sit there in my place and watch him, and he would look at me. He was the father surrounded by his children. I want to read a little bit more, please. Tolerate and cooperate. Although Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj was generally a quiet member of ISKCON and the GBC, he did not hesitate to publicly and strongly chastise anyone, even the leaders, if he saw them behaving in an inappropriate way, or if he saw them propounding some incorrect Siddhānta. However, he was always strongly loyal to and supportive of ISKCON and its GBC, Governing Body Commission, considering ISKCON to be Srila Prabhupada's Seva Sangha. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Mahārāj remembers, quote, I noticed that during the GBC meetings, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj was usually very quiet. He would not speak unless there was something that he felt strongly about. Often I would see Srila Gaur Govinda Swami Mahārāj quietly sitting in the back and reading a book, while other devotees of ISKCON were having heated discussions. His Holiness Shivram Swami Mahārāj remembers, quote, listen to this very carefully. There was a sannyasi about whom there were some serious complaints of misconduct with women. I was the GBC chairman at that time. His Holiness Shivram Swami Mahārāj saying, I was the GBC chairman at that time. When the GBC body spoke to the sannyasi, he was very insulting to the assembly. At the end of the meeting, I got up and was walking to the other side of the room. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj was still sitting, and he stopped me and took my hand and said, a person who criticizes the GBC like that must be driven out of ISKCON. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj made a gesture with his hand that strongly emphasized his point. Mahārāj said, drive him out of ISKCON. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj was very upset by the language the sannyasi had used. He said that such conduct was inexcusable. There is so much nectar, my dear friends, but I will stop here in the interest of time. And Krishna willing, we will continue reading from this beautiful book when good fortune arises in the future. Srila Gour Govinda Swami Mahārāj ki jai. Jagat Guru Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, Parima Mataji, you have a question? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandvat pranams for this nectarian class. Thank you so much. Prabhuji, I don't know whether I should make this request or not. But Prabhuji, please continue this. I'm sorry. This series of Gour Govind Swami Mahārāj, if everybody else agrees, then it will be wonderful to hear again from you on this topic, Prabhuji, if it is okay with you and everybody else.
Yes,
this is just a personal request.
Yes. We'll continue, Mataji. Krishna willing.
Krishna. Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Mataji, you also have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for glorious nectarian class, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have a question actually regarding fasting, Prabhuji. Normally, during appearances days and disappearance days, we have in calendar half-day fasting. So normally what I do is, I have to take tablet in the morning. So I don't take, in the afternoon I take it. But today by mistake, I don't know. Later on at 6:30, I got to know that today is disappearance day of Gour Govind Mahārāj and Bhakti Siddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura Mahārāj. So is that okay if I take a tablet or drink water?
Yes, no problem. You take care of your health. The purpose of fasting is to control our senses. And by taking medicines, you're not engaging in any sense gratification. Anyway, the most important thing on the Avirbhava and Tirubhava Tithi of the Acharyas is to remember them. Remember their glorious example. Remember their teachings. And chant more Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That is the main purpose.
Okay, so we can take, right, Prabhuji? No problem.
Yes, you can take medicine. These things are not very important, Mataji.
Only Janmashtami, Nityananda Trayodasi, and
Gour Purnima.
Gour Purnima. These days, if we fast without water, that's enough, Prabhuji?
Yes. Most important thing is to chant more, hear more, do Vaishnava Seva. And yes, we have to do austerities. But if you have some medicines to take, if they are critical medicines, you take medicines. Medicines lene se upvas nahi tutta. Okay? But fast doesn't break by taking medicines. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, for us, normally it is thyroid medicine, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thyroid medicine has to be taken on an empty stomach in the morning. So you take it, no problem.
Yeah.
Few sips of water.
Yes,
okay? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Divya Agarwal Mataji, last question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You mentioned that, even during chanting and listening to lectures, it's impossible to sit straight. Personally, I find that very hard because I'm always moving around on my feet. So sitting for half an hour without moving, I started getting pain. And I feel the desire to move.
Yeah, see these things, in a class, of course, we have to sit steady in a class. But if you are feeling restless, you can stand up and lean against a wall and stand in the back. That's in a class. As far as chanting is concerned, dhire dhire hame abhyas karna hai. Slowly we have to practice to increase our steadiness and decrease our restlessness. So at least 30 minutes you can chant in one position on one asana. Then if you're feeling restless, you can walk and chant, you can stand and chant, then again sit down for some time like this. And dhire dhire, slowly, you have to increase the steadiness. But we should reach a point where at least 2 hours we can sit on one asana in one position and chant for 2 hours. that abhyas we should do, as long as our body is supporting. But if you have some health problems, back problem, joint problems, then don't worry. These postures are meant to aid, to help our Nam Bhajan. Because when we are sitting in one position, cross-legged, eyes closed, then it helps us concentrate on the mantra better. That's why we do that. But ultimately, this asana is external. It is external. So if because of health reasons, back pain, joint pain, knee pain, we are not able to sit cross-legged, we are not able to sit in one position, that's okay. We can stand and chant, we can walk and chant. No problem. These are all recommendations to aid chanting, to help our Nam Bhajan, to make it better. Chanting in the morning when the mind is peaceful, like that. So if we are not able to do it, it's okay. More important is to chant loudly and to chant attentively. Doesn't matter what posture we do it in. Okay? So we have to use, do the best we can. Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so we'll stop here. Bhakta Ritvik, last question.
Hare Krishna, Pranam. Actually, Prabhuji, I have a question, I have a request. Actually, like you beautifully described the pastime of Srila Bhakti Siddhānta Mahārāj today and the pastime of Srila Gour Govinda Mahārāj. So, Prabhuji, next month, actually, there is the Vyas Puja of Shripad Ayendra Prabhu coming. So, I have a request if you can give a session on the pastimes of Shripad Ayendra Prabhu, so we all can also hear some pastimes of Prabhuji.
Yes, I would be very honored to glorify Shripad Ayendra Prabhu. Thank you. Just remind me on WhatsApp. Will do. Yes, thank you. Anita Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Since Mataji was asking about the posture and things, I had a follow-up question. Like, supposing if you have some problem, like suppose carpal tunnel syndrome, and then doing that jap on the bead, if it is aggravating the syndrome, is it okay to chant in like loudly with Prabhupada's cassette?
Yes, you can chant with Prabhupada's cassette. You can chant without Prabhupada's cassette. You time yourself how much time it takes for you to chant one round. And you can just chant for that much time. Or just make it fixed. You chant for 2 hours. Even if you don't have a mala, it's okay. You have a Tulsi mala around your neck. So you are touching Tulsi Devi, Devi. You just sit and chant for 2 hours at a steady pace. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Pronouncing the Mahamantra nicely, hearing it attentively. And if you chant at this pace, then in 2 hours you can finish 16 rounds.
Yeah, usually I put Prabhupada that 16 round thingy on YouTube and then chant.
Okay, that also you can do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you so much. Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Some devotees use clicker, some devotees chant with the left hand also. So, but whatever works for you, you do. Important thing is to chant and to remember Krishna. Smartavya Satam Vishnu, Vismartavya na Jato Chit. That is most important. Okay? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's it. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.